Spook.
Yes.
Whatever happened to our premiership clock?
Well, Sly, I made the executive decision to replace it with a premiership cock.
A premiership cock?
Yes, a premiership cock. And here he is.
Welcome to the final home and away round episode of the Collingwood Rant. I am Sly.
And I am, my voice isn't hoarse from yelling spook.
It isn't?
No.
Just a little horse?
I'm a little horse.
What do you think of the game against the Bombers? The Bombers had about 28 players out.
Yes, it was like playing a VFL side, except they played like a senior side the way that we played. But we won. Everything fell our way. We're in the top four. Let's move on to Mephitic.
It's a little bit early. Seeing on the couch prior to the game, Pies are ranked second for points from turnovers in the past 4 weeks. A dramatic rise from an 18th position ranking between rounds 10 and 18, where we were flat and shitty.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidentally, it coincides, that's why it's coincidentally, with Taylor Adams and Rupert Wills coming back. They've been the team's number 1 and 2 ranked pressure players during that time.
Oh, good on them.
So it shows how important Adams is to that side and Wills, and I'm assuming that the side did a very similar thing last year.
There's a blast from the past.
Yeah, Phil. Unfortunately,
It's still funny.
We got jumped from the onset. Essendon got the 3 goals up. Could have been a little bit uglier. We reeled them in. I think, although it sort of seemed like a really lackluster game in terms of intensity from our standpoint, I mean, it really reminded me of 2010, that final game against Hawthorn, where we were just sort of trotting around waiting for the game to end. And if we won, we won. I mean, the difference there, in 2010 we couldn't move. This year we could, but it was going to rely on results. And so all we needed to do was get the win. But something I think it's worth pointing out is we lost Moore and we lost Scharenberg pretty early.
Yep.
And did you see Buckley's press conference?
No. Enlighten me.
He said Greenwood, he looks at himself as like a player who takes care of his teammates. So
he certainly took care of him.
So after he knocked out Scharenberg, he was quite rattled and not altogether there. So you had like 2.5 players missing from the side, so you're lacking rotations and all that sort of stuff. Grundy was magnificent.
Yes, he was. Yep.
Surely he should get 3 votes.
Surely he should win the Brownlow and I can clean up.
Jamie Elliott continues his resurgence of form, except for his kicking. Great goal from the pocket.
Yep,
and
excellent.
then missed the 2 straight out in front. Mayo was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh Thomas, I thought, was good.
Yeah, he's starting to eke his way back into some form, which is the perfect time of the year.
And just a message to Travis Varco, kick the fucking goal. What do you do? Run through the goal square. I could not believe he got clear, ran through the goal square, and then drilled a pass over his teammate's head.
Have you ever seen anything like it before
that was
in your life?
I thought, oh, well done. You've gone clear, you're going to snap it. No, I'm going to run away from the goals and try and do the team thing.
Maybe he's got blinkers on. Did he have blinkers on?
I don't know. I want to see that totally cut out of every forwards game. If you have the opportunity, you go. That's not thing. When you lay off.
I don't know whether it's not doing the what was it called doing the team thing or whatnot, but there's just too many of them that just get in and look for the short option when they should be having a shot. If you have a shot and miss, we're happy in the stands.
Yep.
You fuck it up, we're going to talk about it here. Do the math.
I'd be pissed off if you're going for a shot, like a 1 in a million shot. And that wasn't a 1 in a million. You did all the hard work. You got clear.
That shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
Yeah, so that was the one difficult thing you had to do. I'd be upset if they're on the point post and they try to dribble it through 9 opposition when they had someone clear at the 25 metre mark. That's when you lay off. All the great forwards from Peter Dacos onwards, they knew when to go and when to lay off. Too many players in this side don't know when to do what. I think the Goey's probably one who's got the best sense in terms of I know when to go and when not to go. And with the Goey, it's great because even if there's a bit of sense of outrageousness about what he's going to do, he knows, I can pull this one off. But that one, I'll just do the team thing. Like, you remember against Essendon, he just did the volleyball tap back to Hoskin Elliott.
Yeah.
He knows when to go. That sort of shit is just unacceptable. Anyway, second half, our pressure went up. I don't think it was ever like a frenetic game. We only got 50 tackles. But, you look at the second half, we kicked 4-9 to 3-3, so we had 13 shots to 6, more because we would have put some on the full. Last quarter, we kicked 2-7 to 1-2. Really controlled the game, iced them out of it. They didn't actually probably have the personnel to really match it with us, especially after Hurley went down. Tip and Woody was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
If you could throw him, maybe, I don't know, Travis Varco and swap so we can get, a forward. Because he was the one guy I thought just attracted.
Trevor Woody.
Tip and Woody.
Trevor Woody.
Or give him Josh Thomas. I don't know, I'm sorry. His attack on the ball, his intensity was just first class. And from the first half, I thought he was BOG. If Essendon were going to win, it was going to win because he was just doing everything required to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, again, we had players just waiting for the finals. Magnan, I thought, got shown up a bit, but I can't entirely blame him because midfield pressure was just pretty mediocre. Ball was coming down a bit. Ruffy got a goal, did some nice things up forward. And the rest of the mids just chipped in and did what they needed to do to get through the game.
Yeah, so there was two things I thought afterwards about the game, and I think we talked a little bit about it in terms of that Essendon clearly rested a lot of players in their vain attempt to win a final in 2 weeks' time, which meant that you had a whole bunch of either VFL players or returners coming back in, and I think their desire to stay in that side clearly lifted their performance. And secondly was, as I think, as you said with the 2010 game, we cotton wool. You go into self-preservation mode. Nobody wants to get injured during this type of game. And I think we just did enough at the end to get back into the fore and hopefully stay there. I think going into it, we were looking for potentially, hopefully, a percentage booster. But as it turns out, they knew more than we did, and it didn't really matter in the end. But I was probably expecting a little bit more intensity out of the game for us because there was stakes there. But anyway.
Look at it, we went 9 shots in the last quarter of 3, so if we kicked a little bit accurate, we would have won by like 5-6 goals. And who knows, if they kicked a little bit accurately, Essendon may have dropped their heads and just given up. It was always within a couple of goal mark, but it never actually felt like they were going to
run away.
Yeah, or attack us. Out of curiosity, what do you think of the umpiring?
You've obviously got some examples, but I don't remember it glaringly stand out.
No, I was sitting next to an Essendon supporter who was just going, this happens to us every week, we just get robbed, and he was just blabbering about how they constantly suffer the worst of the umpiring, which I reckon is just a load of shit. I mean, anyone who watched that GWS Essendon game when the umpiring was about 29-12 in Essendon's favour and 14-zip in the second half. Yeah, I don't think it was that bad. Anyway, final thoughts?
We won. Yeah. We're in the top 4. Yep.
We'll be back with Medium Athletic.
Could be a short one.
Or a long one.
What the cock.
Welcome back to the Medium Athletic. Ross Lyon sacked. Surprise you?
No.
Would you take him at Collingwood?
No. You would?
I would definitely.
I think he's insane. I think if we needed someone to help us lose the next 3 grand finals, then yes, I would.
No, I don't think you can actually criticise him for that. He got within 2 grand finals of a couple of kicks of flag.
Yes, so did we last year. So what do we need him for?
Because we're probably going to lose Justin Longmuir back to Fremantle. And I think tactically he's a good coach.
I don't think he'd come and settle for an assistant role. He'd be insane enough to go straight into the media.
And the thing with Ross Lyon, I've heard people sort of say he has a very abrasive personality, but you look at all the people like Nick Riewoldt to Matthew Pavlich, they all love him.
Oh, yeah. And so the Freo players clearly love him as well.
Yeah, so, I don't think his personality, the way it's being reported, is actually accurate. Mark Stevens reported a couple of weeks ago that the goalie left the track with awareness of a hamstring concern.
What, was it Moots? Was he aware of Moots' hamstring?
I think he was aware that he had one. Do you think this is going too far with this awareness shit?
Yeah, it's a little bit over the top. I mean, clearly we've heard today that Moore's scans come back negative and they're citing hamstring awareness, so I don't know whether it becomes too much of a panic trigger for them to think that maybe there's something wrong and then I'll pull myself off, so to speak. That came out the wrong way.
What an unfortunate turn of phrase.
I don't know whether it now becomes a bit of a crutch for anyone that says, "Oh, I've got a bit of awareness."
A bit of a crutch.
Bit of awareness. Crutch, cocks, pulling off. It's all happening today.
Player manager Liam Pickering says Darcy Moore is staying put at Collingwood.
Well, because he can't move.
Pretty much.
I want to leave, but I can't.
I've still got one foot in
I'm
the door.
aware of something.
Yeah. What would you pay for Grundy? Tim Watson says he wouldn't be paying the money that's been bandied about for a ruckman.
See, I don't fathom this one. My understanding is look, from my perspective, you give him whatever he wants. He wants 7 years, if the rumours are to be believe it true, and they've said too much, and the club said too much, you just said too much, and yet we gave Dane Beams 4 years. And we only offered Grundy 3.
Well, I didn't want to give Beams 4 years. I didn't want to get Beams
I know, but
at all.
this is the mentality of it. Is that you've given 4 years to someone who potentially isn't going to last 4 years, and you're balking at probably the best ruckman come midfielder the Collingwood's ever seen.
I would give Grundy 5. I wouldn't give him 7 because he's 25 now. 7 will take him into his 30s. And for a player of his style, as he gets older, I don't know if he's going to be as effective because he's going to lose that agility and stuff. So that would be my concern for 7-year contract. I think anyone, that like the Buddy Franklin 9-year contract, I think was insane. I understand why they did it to land him, but I think 5 is pretty much the most I would give to anyone who's in their prime. Grundy has a pretty good injury profile. I don't think
he's very durable at this stage.
At this stage,
until
we said this.
We probably just killed him now.
Yeah, but 7 years for any player, I don't care. If it was Pendlebury in his prime or whoever the case, I wouldn't do 7 years because it's just, I think, too big a chance.
So the funny thing is, he's still contracted next year. So it's the media that's making this an urgent thing to tie him up. Now, granted, if he's uncontracted next year, he becomes a free agent and then it becomes a battle for money. Now, I don't have any doubts that he wants to say it. I'm sure they'll leak out some sort of deal, but it doesn't have to happen now.
No.
It can happen off-season. It can happen while he's over in Bali.
But just the query is whether you'd give him the reported 7, the alleged 7.
I probably would, because he's a once-in-a-lifetime player. They deserve a little bit of extra special love.
Talking about list management, Sam Murray is free to play next year.
Did that just come out of the ether?
Would you keep him on?
I think they will.
Would you keep him on?
Look, prior to him having his incident, he started well and then sort of got a little bit found out, but I think there's something there to work with. He certainly has that line-breaking pace, and that's the whole reason we brought him in. I'd keep him there and just see what he's capable. He's not going to cost us anything to hang around.
No, I just think because of the way the list is structured, you're going to be losing definitely Wells at the end of this year. Dunn, potentially Reid, and then there's a few other guys like Goldsack.
There's going to be a high turnover. So, you can't
Varco.
gut the list.
So I think you need some of those, mid-range guys like Wills and Murray and those sort of speculative picks who have put a lot of time into actually staying and to hopefully turn them over, or if at worst, make them transitional players so they can hang around for 2 years, provide depth, and then bring new guys in.
Yep.
Collingwood has 3 players in the AA squad: Grundles, Pendles, and Treloar. Treloar leads the league in possessions.
Yeah, that'd be the only real reason they picked him, surely.
I think he's been useful. I just don't think he's been great
I don't think he's been
until Adams
all Australian form. But
I'd be curious how he fares in the Brownlow, given that it is very much a possessions award now.
Yeah, I'm still fairly confident that Grundy will poll more consistently. I think Treloar will probably get a few 3 votes, but he.
So the problem with Collingwood is I think you're going to get a number of players who are going to take votes off one another yet again. I think someone like Cripps could potentially do well because he's probably going to get votes in a lot of those narrow losses. He might even do a Chris Judd and get 3 votes in a 9-goal loss. But he doesn't have a lot of people who are going to be taking votes away from him. Which is one reason I think the Brownlow's full of shit, because...
Well, it is. It's a midfielder's award.
But it's just also the fact of, well, who else is taking votes from you? You might have a team that gets 120 votes between them all, or whatever, and then someone wins it from a team that only gets 50 votes, and the player who won it got 30 of those. It's like, well, hang on, that's not really fair, because these guys were losing votes to teammates, and you were the only one polling in your side. So how is it actually the best? It's not technically the best.
Generally, though, I think it gets it right.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we fixed that.
No, I just think it's skewed. So, and now, as you said, it's a midfielders award. So people aren't being recognised, like, fullbacks, full forwards. I mean, when's the last time a ruckman won it?
Well, you think, it's a loose sort of association, but you remember that year that Richo almost pulled it off when he was moved onto the wing.
So again, mid.
Yeah, so it's technical. I suppose you're right there, but that was one that was breaking the mould. But I think, certainly, I don't think too many people, if Grundy wins it this year, I don't think there'd be anyone complaining.
No,
except probably
they wouldn't. But
Ralph
as you call him, he's
Robbo and a few of the others.
He's also a mid. Anyway, Dermot Broden says we should trade Jamie Elliott, as we have Stevenson and Goey, and those two can play multiple positions, whereas Elliott's a one-position player.
I didn't read this article, but I did read a snippet where apparently he says that Goey and Elliott are unlikely to ever push into the midfield. So apparently because of that equation, we have a dearth of these players.
No.
I don't think that's true. I'd certainly, at this stage, I'd be keeping them all. I'd be collecting the set.
Well, you're thinking, I'd look at it from the point of view that if Goey was said he'd be playing more midfield time now anyway, and Stevenson will be pushing into the midfield at some stage of his career, so those two will actually move away from the 4-9, which is the reason why Elliott should stay, is because he will be the guy that remains there while the players around him move. Commiserations to Alex Woodward, he did his knee.
5th time, I believe.
Yep, unfortunate, tragic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you some rumours that are bandied about. Tom Langdon's knee is so bad that he might retire.
I heard he's going to lose the leg.
But seriously, what would you think of that? And allegedly, it is because they didn't actually treat it correctly.
Oh, that'd be a shock, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What we need is a $70 million facility to fix all these things. I don't know. I'd be very disappointed if that was true. Obviously, there's issues with the recovery of the leg, or maybe it was worse than intended. Thought. He's a loss. He's a big loss, and I don't want to lose him to.
No, you've pumped games into him. He was one of these maligned players last year. I think people recognised his value. And you're finally getting him to fit into that defensive six, and then he does an injury, and now you're saying, well, that could be it for him, which would be tragic. Darcy Moore, another rumour, is a hypochondriac.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Allegedly, a source close to us, that's what the journalists say.
Not the bear.
Not that fair. Bear can't bear it.
Well, there's some veiled words that Walsh had in the press release today around the fact that there was nothing wrong, and I can't remember word for word what it said, but it was a little bit almost critical.
Well, even Buckley was sort of saying, I'm not confident he'll be right, and it was like, just reading between the lines, it's like, because you don't think there's actually a problem there, you think there's another issue that even if the body was right, the mentality might not be. And I've heard this from a couple of sources that, and again, these are just rumours, so sue someone else.
Because we got no money.
Yeah. That a couple of the times he hasn't played, there has been nothing physically wrong.
Yes, now obviously that could come down to a lack of confidence in the body, or it could be that there is something of a mental nature there in terms of a belief that I'm breaking down when I'm not actually am. Or
well, this is why I go back to I mentioned the guy thing. So you had awareness. So how much does this prey on the mind if you do have I'm this sort of person myself. If you have a health-focused mentality, so if you feel something in your body and then you're going, well, okay, I better get off because they're teaching me to respond to the messages my body's delivering me. So I actually worry that I don't know anything about sports science, but I would worry as a
I don't either.
Yeah, just thinking, okay, we're teaching you if you feel a twitch, go off, or you feel a twinge, go off. And it's like, well, maybe sometimes the twinge is just like a minute.
It could be a bit of cramp,
or
cramp, a bit of fatigue in the muscle.
Yeah.
Especially at the end of a game where you've been running a lot.
So that's what worries me is you over stress with certain players that, hey, there's an issue here, get off. Whereas there actually isn't an issue there, just run through it. I mean, with Moore, he's had several frustrating years with injury.
Maybe they should hypnotise him.
Well, that would probably be
with
good.
A watch.
Turn him into a chicken.
Or a cock.
Yeah. Which brings us still side bottom. Ruptured testicle.
I heard a rumour about this.
Yeah, go on.
That that he's busted a nut so bad that it had to come off.
Yep.
Ouch!
Again, rumours.
Was that the nut?
Sources close to us. And now we'll be right back with something new.
I would have liked to seen a doctor's report like in Flying High where the nut was bouncing around on the desk. That would have been a good news report.
Maybe a tribble. We'll be right back. Okay, we're right back with something new called the Stevenson Crisis.
The Stevenson Crisis. I hope you build a graphic for that.
I should, if I go to work. Mick McGuire.
Could we put the cock back up?
I know someone who's not doing that in the short term. Nick McGuire and Jeff Kennett slam.
Jeff who?
Kennett.
Jeff
Kennett. Slam.
Janet.
Slam Jaden Stevenson being allowed to play in the VFL. McGuire labelled it a disgrace. That's as far as I read. Mark Stevens said Stevenson himself approached the Pies with the idea he could return to the VFL the day after his 12th AFL game. A step ahead of all of us and a major boost to his chances of immediate finals impact. Except for the fact that there's a bye now.
Well, what an impact. I mean, I can't believe how the fabric of society was almost destroyed by Stevenson play.
There's a big list.
Sorry, I've jumped the gun.
So, Damien Barrett says that Jaden Stevenson...
Oh, now we're on to the quality journalism.
Yes, Damien Barrett says that Jaden Stevenson's VFL availability is a legally manipulated rort.
Is it?
Yes.
Did he spell those words himself?
I don't know.
It's like he vomited a Scrabble board.
It's like, I don't know, maybe you got a ghostwriter to do it. Jared Watley whined... Oh,
I think hang on. You should say he's still whining.
He's still the one journalist
it's
in this
epic
group I
whine.
like. I didn't print all this out because he actually whined on television and he wrote an article about it. Whined that the penalty was contrived to allow Stevenson to play finals. He called Stevenson being allowed to return miserable governance. Well, you know that's the AFL's motto. Governing miserably throughout season to season. And then he said there's a delineation between a suspension from the integrity department and a suspension from the tribunal. This is intolerable.
Well, only to you, mate.
He wrote a whole article about it. Kylie Maslin, I don't know who this person is, said given round 23 was still an open fixture at the time the suspension was handed down, and given the deal done between Collingwood and the AFL, she actually has a strong feeling the Pies lobbied heavily for a Friday night game as part of the deal in order for this to happen.
Well, that would have been the only reason, surely.
Sure. Okay. Now
because we do make up the fixture ourselves.
Yes. But just let me go through it. Friday night, considered prime time, blockbuster. So which of these games might you have played on Friday night instead?
Let's hear the list.
Sydney versus St Kilda.
Oh, that's a strong contender.
North versus Melbourne.
Oh, bigger than Texas, that one.
Geelong versus Carlton. 1st versus 16th. Oh. How was that not Friday night?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you add it together, it comes to 17.
Suns versus Giants.
Oh, I'm feeling the rage building.
Bulldogs versus Adelaide in Ballarat.
In Ballon.
Port versus Dockers.
Where was that one played? Tipperoo?
The hard day. Eagles versus Hawthorn. That was a loose possibility.
Yeah, that could have been. And, yeah.
But that is still 4th versus 10th rather than 5th versus 7th.
Ended up being a good game.
And it was a good game, but there's probably...
Good for us!
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the fixturing is like this year, but I'd imagine because of the time difference in Perth, you probably wouldn't have that as a Friday night game, though.
No, because you'd have to start at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep. And the final one is Richmond versus Brisbane. First versus... But, I mean, if you look at this logically, because you're going to have people flying over from Queensland, so do you want them taking the day off work Friday, which a lot of them aren't going to be able to do, or catching a flight, the first flight out of Queensland after work, driving straight to the game Friday night? Or do you say, hey, we'll put it Saturday afternoon, you can fly in Friday night or fly in Saturday morning and come to the game. So I think logistically it's better that game was Saturday for people travelling from interstate.
Except it was on Sunday.
Whatever, in the afternoon.
Whatever.
We're
not bothered with facts on the rant.
But that actually works better. It gives people from Queensland more time.
Because they can go to church in the morning.
No, but they actually have time to fly, make a weekend of it and shit like that. They're not going to fly in Friday night, or not in the masses that they did. It was a pretty heavily attended game. You want the interstaters to have as much time as possible to fly in and shit like that. So
I think there was more ex-Fitzroy supporters crawling back out of the woodwork for this one.
That's probably a possibility too. They did wear the Fitzroy jumper. So of those games, you'd really look at it and go, well, you know what, Collingwood Essendon was probably the best prospect Friday night.
Collingwood Essendon, Anzac Day, rates fairly well, I think. Generally, he draws a big crowd. I think we had 88,000 there. On Friday night? Yeah,
You're
it's not exactly difficult math to do, is it?
And you're probably looking
Pythagoras wouldn't have needed to be brought in to have a crack at this one, would
you're
he?
probably looking at the two. At that time, they thought they would play in the finals in 2 weeks. So this is a bit of a good lead-in. I mean,
not against each other.
Yeah, so this is a good lead-in. So of that, it was just like, I think Collingwood Essendon was the ideal game for that Friday night. John Ralph. Can I do John Ralph voice? I'm not going to do it. Imagine how filthy the past week's final one opponents. I can't speak like.
When did John Ralph become Christopher Walken?
No, that's too good. Will be if Jaden Stevenson comes out and kicks 6 in the final after having a hugely important VFL run. Even the Pies don't really believe it's supposed to get by their own words. Utterly ridiculous.
How'd he go?
I don't know. I think he did it right. So again, bye between VFL game and AFL game. But I got to give John Ralph kudos because I look at it from the point of view that Chris Scott, when he's addressing his charges, what are we playing Saturday night?
No, in the first it's Friday night.
Friday, whatever it is. Right, you were just saying how good I am with days and times. I can just imagine Chris Scott will be addressing his team. He'll be going to the defensive unit. Look, don't worry about the goalie. I know he's a match breaker. He loves the big occasion. Don't worry about Jamie Elliott. He's kicked a fair few goals in the last 4 games. Worry about Jaden Stevenson. He's got one VFL game under his belt in 10 weeks. Get on Stevenson.
Tremble with fear.
He's got VFL match conditioning.
I don't think Chris Scott will be doing anything other than mopping up his tears of despair because we're not playing this game at Cardinia Park.
Well, I did ask Chris Scott what he thought of Stevenson being allowed to play, and he said this.
The minute that was announced, I started building an ark because I'm expecting another flood of biblical proportions.
So what do you think about Stevenson being
allowed
to play?
From his tears.
What do you think about Stevenson being allowed to play one VFL game?
Good. That was the conditions and they were served. If he's had the nous to put his hand up and suggest this, more power to him. Look, I know it can appear a bit odd because generally I suppose you're saying that if you're suspended and your team plays on a Friday night, means you can go play on the Saturday, but I'm not sure exactly that that's the same situation as this, but it didn't kill anyone, did it?
Not yet.
I mean, if this was an opposition player and he came back through the VFL, would you give 2 shits?
No, but that's another thing which, once it's Collingwood, it's a tragedy.
Well, that's it.
Well, and then after all this, Gillan McLaughlin, AFL CEO...
Gilligan?
Yeah, that's close enough. Noted that all penalties from the Integrity Department are bespoke penalties. And he noted, and it was actually really interesting because I'm going to come back and attack every journalist I've named. He noted that similar leniency integrity bans were handed to Richmond's Nathan Broad and Port Adelaide's Sam Powell-Pepper. And quote, both those guys actually played VFL and SANFL during their AFL suspensions.
Did they?
McLaughlin said. And he said of Stevenson being allowed to play, I think it's very logical.
So where was the rage and all that?
Well, that's what I'm about to say. So these fucking journalists who apparently have an issue because it's Collingwood, no one did any checking to see if this had occurred before. And you know what? Now that you see that, McLaughlin says, both those guys actually played VFL and SANFL, I'd be saying, well, I'm pissed off that you didn't allow Stevenson back 4 weeks ago. Why couldn't you just keep playing VFL? You allowed it for these guys, but none of these fucking journalists who are getting paid what? What do you think Watley's getting paid to be on AFL for shitty?
I reckon about $8.50.
Oh, come on. These guys would be on hundreds of thousands a year for shoddy journalism and no research whatsoever.
It's just the wine of the moment, though.
But because it's Collingwood.
Yeah. Oh, that would be double fold.
Oh, it's really fucking annoying, seriously. And the shit that they kicked up, the 10 weeks was excessive as it was.
Yeah, Bucks came out and said the same thing too, that he believed 6 would have been enough, and, really over the top, and what's the end of the world if he did play? And nothing really broke anyway. I think you had a really good point about this when we were talking about it during the week, about what seems to be forgotten here is this penalty was meant to ensure that Jaden Stevenson doesn't bet again. And that was lost in the mire of salty tears. Now, unless come Sunday morning, we went down to the local TAB and Stevenson's placing a bet, what fucking harm was done?
Yeah, I mean, I actually saw Stevenson at Crown last night. I said, Jaden, what are you doing? He goes, penalty doesn't mean anything. They'll let you play VFL.
That's it.
He just put his whole weight of money on the fucking table and bet it all on black. And he goes,
I'm getting my accomplice Phil in and we're going to get Robin Banks.
It is ridiculous. I mean, the penalty was meant to teach him a lesson. I think it did that. One game of VFL.
I think the penalty the lesson was you don't ask to play VFL games ever again.
I mean, we know the penalty. The lesson was don't fucking owe up to the AFL because you just get whacked.
Keep stum.
Anyway, we'll be back with... It's close. Missed it by that much.
Chief.
The match preview.
Finals.
Welcome back to the match preview. Okay, so we're a little bit out from the finals. So when's it been playing? Saturday night?
Friday night.
Friday night.
4 p.m? Friday week this week.
6th
of September.
Okay.
Beware the Ides of September.
Alright, so let's go straight over to the venue.
Well, let's go now.
Let's go straight to the venue. Issues that it's been played at the MCG where they never play finals.
I can't believe there's a precedent already set for this.
Yep. And it's not being played at Skilled where they've played the one final.
And how did that final go for them?
They got smashed.
Well, not really. They lost about 12 points, but still.
It's Fremantle. 12 points in a Fremantle game is like 200.
My God, that's a smashing.
That's a smashing. How dare you play a game at the MCG?
Unbelievable.
And from our old friend, Robbo, Chris Scott is right. The final system is bizarre.
Who would have thought this was coming?
I should do a Robbo. The AFL must be the only sport in the world where the team which qualified higher has to play a home final at the other team's home ground. It's ridiculous. And it all comes down to money. You think? You think?
And you're doing your job for free, no doubt.
Yes. And you know, the AFL doesn't operate to make a profit. No business does.
It is bizarre. I agree, Robbo.
The AFL says it's about maximising crowd numbers, which really means it's maximising money. Just out of curiosity, you know, you got a club that's got 85,000 members in Collingwood. I don't know what Geelong's got, but they've got more than that ground can fit anyway.
There's a lot of sheep and goats.
Yep.
And
so,
chickens.
You know what, you do have to take in the human equation of, you know, we do want fans to be able to see their teams that they're supported throughout the year.
So what's the capacity at Skilled? It's about 48,000 or something, which pretty much at the best of times it's filled with people praying to their corn god.
Yeah, I'm still going for it to Robbo. The AFL takes all the money from the final series, so, of course, they want the final at the MCG. They've never wanted a final at the MCG before, so it is amazing you've done this detective work.
So when GWS, they played our home final last year, I believe, and about 7,000 people turned up. Were they just rubbing the coffers really hard that night?
The AFL loved it, you know.
Because they did that for money, obviously.
Yep. Nothing can be done about it because money overtook fairness and integrity of competition a long time ago. This
is man talking about integrity.
Yeah.
it's just lathered with credibility.
Irony can be pretty ironic sometimes. What makes it more curious is AFL executives receive cash bonuses for KPIs. Really?
I saw Gillen lighting a cigar with a $100 note once we made the top 4. Yeah. So Robbo's probably onto something.
To be fair, well, it's good that you can see the other side. The finals income is huge and benefits all of the sport. But would have thought integrity of competition was more important. A competition which has done things like...
So the draw is
salary,
fair?
Yes.
Draw is fair?
Salary
we play each other twice. So
discrepancies. Let Sydney take Buddy Franklin and Kurt Tippett in the same year. There's within 2 years. No issues there. It's about the integrity of the competition. By the way, do you know your club was involved in the big supplement scandal a few years ago?
No, there was no scandal.
No integrity there.
Because Robbo was in the bat for them every step of the way.
As famous?
Because he has integrity.
As infamous Collingwood supporter Dingo pointed out, Tigers basically play all their games at the MCG. Last 7 games they've played at the MCG. All finals are generally played at the MCG. That doesn't bother anyone. Doesn't bother anyone that Geelong has this home ground advantage in this narrow sheep paddock down there in Geelong, and that helps them get into finals year after year. So, it's about integrity.
Folks.
Wayne Carey says we're just making up the numbers in the finals.
Yeah, good.
And you know what? I was thinking, you know what, Wayne? You're not getting the gist of what's going on here. It's about integrity. Okay?
I thought the AFL make up the numbers so they could lighten their pockets.
We actually had the toughest draw of any club this year because that's what happens when you come second. You get the toughest draw, and the team who wins the flag gets like the 4th toughest draw. Or
Richmond.
They had like the 12th toughest draw after they won the flag.
Theirs had feathers in it.
Yep. And then we played 11 games against top 8 sides, which is more than anyone else played in the top 8. So the next best was 10 by the Bulldogs, because obviously, they finished like 15th last year, so they needed a tough draw also. And Essendon played 9. But we had the most wins against other teams in the top 8. So we went 7-4. Geelong went 5-3. Bulldogs went 5-5. Richmond went 5-4. West Coast went 4-4. GWS went 4-5. Brisbane went 4-4. And Essendon went 2-7. I actually found that interesting because I was thinking, with all the injuries we had, with the fixturing, with all the shit we had, the Stevenson integrity scandal and all that sort of shit, we finished 4th. I know results had to fall our way, but it's like, who cares, because everyone was losing games.
It is what it is.
Yep, it is what it is in the end. So I think we've actually done pretty well. I think Wayne
That's
Carey...
big of you to say, considering how critical you were of the entire season.
Oh, we played like shit. I think we should have went undefeated. So... Sidebottom missed round 23 with a ruptured testicle. What the fuck, man? Seriously? How do you rupture a testicle?
I think there was someone at the grassy knoll.
I think that would have been Jaden Stevenson on his day back in the VFL. I think he just clambered over the fence and got on the grassy knoll. I am actually astonished that in 2 years I've had Sidebottom rupture a testicle, Cox tear a retina, and Trelaw do 2 hamstrings.
That's amazing.
It's seriously, it's like you're playing some fucking bizarre game which is just throwing up random injuries.
It's like we bought a copy of Grey's Anatomy and we're working through it in alphabetical order.
Can you quote me who said this after we reported that Steele Sidebottom was going to miss the Essendon game? I struggle with the supernatural, but I'm 100% convinced Buckley is cursed.
I think that was me.
Okay, I actually look at it from the point of view, though, I actually think Mason Cox aside, and if we can get Darcy Moore right, he'll be an able substitute. We're pretty much at full strength. Who would you bring back into that side? Aish maybe.
Aish would have been the obvious one.
Well, and this is sort of including Stevenson, De Gully, and Moore as they're going to play.
No, if everything, all the stars align and these guys come into the first final, the only thing we're really lacking is that cohesiveness in terms of preparation going in. But geez, it's a handy looking side.
It is. Again, Aish is the only one, and I look at Aish as, well, who are you going to displace? It's going to have to be someone like Scharenberg. So I think where they're at in their careers is pretty much like for like in terms of what they're offering the side. They're different players, but just in terms of their output, they're going to get about 15, 20 possessions. They're both nice, neat kicks. They're both still really finding their ways.
Yep.
So I don't think, we're... Sorry, I'm not being unfair to Aish, but just sort of, he's not somewhere terribly missing at the moment.
He's going to be, because he's a shoulder recall or something, hasn't he? So I don't know how much running and stuff.
He'd be great to have back, but again, it's just sort of, in that 18-22 slot. So big query is going to be fitness. Guys like Dunn and Wells are not
part of the equation.
No, and they shouldn't be. I know people are floating about, well, if we get Wells' body right, which I'm still seeing on like Twitter and shit, it's like, if we can get Wells' body right, because that's worked so well the last 3 years.
Oh, that's a big if.
No doubting the guy's got skill, but he's not Burgoyne, who's played until, what's Burgoyne now, about 46?
He's about 98 years old.
He's still...
98 years young.
He's still, dominating, whereas Wells...
He carved him up on against the Eagles the other night, and you think, geez, how old, mate? Seriously. He looks like he's got another 10 years in him, dude.
But that's the thing, is like, every player has an end date. Wells is about 4 years ago, and then we signed him to a 3-year contract. Was it a 4-year contract? There's no disrespect to Wells, but he has had a career where he's missed chunks of seasons. When it happened to Buckley, Buckley's legs just went out from under him. And that was it. Bang, his career was over. It just happens to everyone. And people still go, but if we can get his body right, maybe we should get Anthony Rocker in there too.
I think we can get his body right.
Yeah. So, Moore's gone from unlikely to play to, yes, he could be back. Yes, we think he'll be back. A stat from, I don't know where Magpie Russ got it from, but Moore 7 hamstring issues since the start of 2018. In 4 of those games, he's played less than 35 minutes, which is not great. With Moore, the one thing I'd say, if it is partly mental, I just say, mate, if it goes again, or if you feel it's gone, that's the end of your 2019. You know what?
I think that's inevitable.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's inevitable. So you know what? If you feel it tightening and you're a little bit worried, you know what? Just fucking charge through it. It'll either break, and that's going to be the end of your 2019 anyway, or you're going to break some psychological barrier and go, you know what? My body's a bit more durable than I thought it was going to be. You know, the other thing interesting of Moore is I remember when he did it against West Coast 98 weeks ago. When they were reporting what happened to him, I can't remember who the boundary rider was, but he said he goes, he sprinted right past me. It can't be a hamstring problem because he was running that fast. And it turned out to be a hamstring problem, which I actually found really curious. Tyson Goldsack says, Swingman, Ben Reed is likely to come back. You know why they call him a swingman?
Because he swings past you on the way to the infirmary?
He can do either hamstring.
Oh, that's it. That's true.
You know, Reed was a gun, but, you know, seriously, again, you got to minimise the possible players we could lose in finals. Sire left the VFL ground with concussion. Josh Dacos had 36 disposals. I don't know if he can get back. I don't actually understand some of the anti-Josh Dacos sentiment that runs around. Like, I don't know if people are just sort of thinking he was going to be like his dad and come out and be a gun from the beginning, and when he's not, it's like, oh shit, this guy must be shit. I reckon the 2 games he's been dropped following the North and the Hawthorn game, it was like, everyone was shit those 2 games. Why are people singling him out? And the games against Melbourne and the Gold Coast, admittedly lesser opposition, he did really well. So I actually think he's tracking pretty well. I don't think he's in selection contention, but I just sort of mentioned it because he's been dominating in the VFL this year.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up.
Yep, Wells in cruise control. You saw the VFL. How did Wells look?
That good.
Like that, huh?
He just seemed to canter around a fair bit, which I think was really just the purpose of just getting some run into his legs.
What do you think about this game coming up against the Cats? They had a bit of a dip in form, but they've looked pretty good. They've got them back on track.
That's the thing. I think their form post the bye has been patchy. Were they 5-5 or something after the bye? I think they're worried. The fact that they're coming out straight off the bat and bleating about the ground unfairness, it's almost like they're trying to mask the fact that their finals record has been pretty shit. So they had 3 wins out of 12 cracks or something in the last few years. They should be concerned. Well, I think they are concerned, and they're almost trying to preempt the loss with reasons why our minds aren't on the prize. I think if we go in focused, and a lot about whether we are geared to be mentally looking to atone for last year, is going to come out on that Friday night. If we go in there limp, I think we're mentally cactus. But we should, by all rights, can I say win? Are we allowed to say win?
Only if you have integrity.
If this was a Malthouse type game, he would have already turned the tables on Geelong and started preying on those weaknesses, get those doubts going in their minds about their finals record, etc., etc. The fact that they're trying to deflect now. I'd sincerely hope, Buckley's a nice bloke, but I wouldn't mind him coming out with a few little kidney jabs and get those get that down in there. I think you need every edge you can in this game. On paper, they probably look, I suppose, a little bit more of the form side in terms of consistency over the season, but I think we can get them.
I think if Malthouse was there, he'd be saying stuff like, regardless of where it's being played, they did finish minor premiers. So the expectation is that they'll be the ones who will win. And
he was the master of putting the heat back on the opposition side.
I mean, okay, so you got more likely to retain his spot.
Yep.
And side bottom, DeGoey and Stevenson to come in, probably at the expense of Noble, Magden,
Varco, maybe.
Over Varco
Callum
or Brown. One of those 2, I think, will go.
I think if it came down to Brown and Varco, I think he'd go with Varks.
Yeah, probably because of the finals experience. Yep. Against his old side and all that, but geez, didn't like that cross from the goal scourges.
That was a fair bet he won't do it ever again.
You think?
Yeah,
so what you said I think is entirely accurate. I think the whole year has played out like Geelong's 2009, where in 2008 they went 21-1 for the home and away season. Guess who they lost that one game to? And then they lost the grand final to Hawthorn. And the following year, they just sort of did enough to get in the top 4. And it was almost like they learned, we busted our asses to get to, minor premiers, and what did it achieve for us. And Brisbane were very similar during their period of dominance. I think even Hawthorn was like that during their three-peat. It was just like, we just need to get there. Once we're there, all bets are off. And you know what? Given the way it's fixtured, if it's not being at Skilled Stadium, whatever the hell it's called, it's, we finished 4th, but it's at the MCG, so you're playing a ground that you should know relatively well. You shouldn't have any excuses. So you should be able to just, if you're for real, up a level in terms of intensity, and use last year's failure. We fucking call it a failure.
It is a
to
failure.
actually motivate you to another level.
Yep, I agree.
The only funny thing is typically Collingwood. It's like we're talking about it. We both probably felt it was better to finish 5th and to actually just have ongoing games.
No, we did say that a couple of times, but
The biggest query...
we have to go with where we are now. And the double chance, we may need it.
Biggest query...
hopefully not.
I mean, the biggest worry is more. If his body breaks down... I mean, I'd seriously think Buckley and that would seriously be looking at it and going, you know what? Fuck, maybe we'll play Reed, because he might break down, but we know if he breaks down...
He might take out some other people with shrapnel.
No, but he'll actually, he won't just jog off at a cramp or some shit. Moore's got all this talent, and you just want him to break the game open, and you think he's on the cusp there. Like, he showed some glimpses of brilliant form with people comparing to Peter Knights and all that. I still think he's a forward anyway. But...
Yeah, well, just on that, I'd be inclined, if we're going to talk positional changes, that I'd throw him up forward for this game.
I
and
think
put Ruffy down back. And I think, maybe psychologically he'll feel that he doesn't have to run as hard and be more attacking as he is, like when he's defending, that he can have a little bit more, not resting, but you won't have to run or work as hard as a forward as he would in defence. Maybe up here. I don't know. I still think, like you, he's probably for this, he should be up forward.
I think he should be up forward full time anyway. I think that's where his career will lay, if he can get his body right. But here's a big concern, because if you lose him in the first half or first quarter or whatever, then immediately you're really handicapped in terms of who do you play where, because you're not going to have Magnan there as a tall defender. So
I think in terms of quality, you've got to take that risk. And I'd rather know in the first final that if he's going to go bang, then let it happen then rather than later on.
I actually seriously wouldn't mind if they say he's right, if they feel he's right, if they give him some seriously heavy fucking duty training in the next 2 weeks and just go, if you're going to break, we're going to break you right here.
What about the hypnotism?
Well, I could try that. But here's the one I have the big question mark over. The others are doing well. I think, we can match them in terms of personnel and all that sort of shit. They beat us opening round when we were both really just still working out how we, were operating. We had Beams in there, which was, and Elliot was just coming back, so we had a few guys who was trying to fit into the puzzle. But, I'm really thinking of the teams in the top 4, the one who worries me would be Richmond, because they're really starting to come good. And they've gotten everyone back, and they've gotten that self-belief, whereas the others, I think, the others in the 8, I look at them all and I think we can beat them, and I think there's a few, I'm not counting Geelong in this list, but there's a few who I think we can beat at 90%, whereas Richmond and Geelong, I think we need to be at our best, and Geelong is the test right now.
Yep.
I will say one thing though, can we stop fucking celebrating this club for being just mediocre? I seriously saw this meme, which I sent to you, which pissed me off, which was Eddie Maguire holding an eagle by the throat and saying, "Who's choking now?" Because Eagles lost to Hawthorn.
Yeah, that's not the club that comes out with that crap.
I know it's not, but that's
it's the majority of the supporter base who seem to think this is something to hang your hat on.
Yeah, it's like what? Because Eagles dropped from 4th to 5th. Does that make up for the grand final loss? That really fucking annoys me. It's like, you know what? Stop celebrating other clubs' failures. Sure you can laugh at Melbourne's and shit like that, ending up second last. But really, let's build some new accomplishments. stop fucking hanging their hats on. I mean, it killed me when Hawthorn was going for 4 in a row and Brisbane was going for 4 in a row. It was like, I've got to protect that record from 1927, 28, 29, 30. It's like, really? How about instead of protecting that record, or if we're going to protect it, we do it by getting in the grand final and smashing the team who's trying to get it, and we make some new fucking history. So I just want the whole club and all supporters just go, you know what? All starts again now. Let's fucking do something special. And let's not celebrate him for just being there. You know, got to do better. So you tip?
Collingwood by 18 points. By 18 points.
Collingwood by 49 points.
Oh, you're confident then?
Yeah. Anyway, we won't be back next week.
No, we're taking a week off and we're going to the hot spas with the team.
Really?
No.
I was going to Tab with Jaden.
Like the soft drink. You can have a soft drink with him.
Huh, that's terrible. People don't even know what a Tab is.
You know, Tab, you got to order something first.
What a movie. Like, subscribe, leave comments, stuff like that.
Send us an email.
Don't send us an email.
Oh, because we had to answer it.
We don't have an email address.
Oh, that's true.
Anyway, we'll see you in 2 weeks, hopefully with happy faces.
Yes. Go Woods.
Oh, good in the bin.
I'm in the bin.
What a shot.
That's never happened before.
No.
I think we can win the flag now.
Right. Later.
That bin is flag shaped.